So here we have a 67 442 W30, very rare car.
And its successor model, follow-up in 68 over there, which is one of my favorites. I really like the 68, 69 Cutlasses.
This is the first, I think, application of the plastic fender flares that are red on this car.
Oh yeah, the liners?
Yes. Oldsmobile was a pioneer.
Another interesting thing here is how the spaced headlamp motif evolved in Oldsmobile. 59 was a seminal year for Pontiac. It had the split grille theme for the first time. Oldsmobile had the spaced headlamps with the parking lamp and turn signal in between the headlights. And that was also a very successful, highly recognizable cue, and Oldsmobile stayed with that for a long time. We see the 1968 interpretation here. Same basic approach, but with a different interpretation. Very, very clean organization of the front end elements.
You can see the ram air scoops down there.
Yeah, that's the additional ram air scoops. This is the last production car, the 68 and 69, that had the Tornado cues on the side. It had the big the wheelhouse flanges with the very gentle sculptured wheelhouse flares that reference the way it was done on the Tornado, at least to a certain extent.
Very different from the Pontiac.
Very different. Pontiac was super clean. There was nothing there. It's just some subtle shape, and this one has a bit more distinctive wheelhouse emphasis because of that.
Yeah, it doesn't have the kind of waspy shape that the Pontiac.
This is very, very contemporary. You will find a lot of cars today trying to achieve some sort of surface development like this, sucking out the wheels and emphasizing. Of course, today's cars would have an appropriate track to go with it and the wheels out by the edge of the body or the wheel opening. But because these cars had so much undertuck, they curved down and under towards the center line of the car. They get away with it. They don't necessarily have to have that ridiculously wide track that cars have today to look properly athletic. So this one looks pretty good, even with the wheels set in a little bit.
Nice detail here with the
reflector on the side. Yeah, that was
the shape of a rocket.
Well, it was 1968, so by 68 it was mandatory to have a red reflector or side marker lamp. And so they styled it to be a little bezel that's got the Oldsmobile rocket logo in it. Very nice detail.
It's got the trumpet exhaust similar to the Tornado GT that had.
And I love the paint fill insert to emphasize this really clean line that goes around the back. This is really peak fastback. I mean, there's almost no accent. There's a little bit of an apex in the curve here in the line that you can see a little bit of a hint of a trunk. But for all intents and purposes, it's just one big sweeping line. So this is really peak fastback. And these were called sometimes tunnel back also, because the glass and the inner surface are set inward a little bit. So they have a bit of a tunnel like the Mercury, Marauders, and those cars. And there's some other cars that did that. It's also a good aerodynamic device, because when the airflow terminates at the end of the body, to have a little bit of a scalloped undercut is actually an aerodynamically helpful surface device.
This is a post sedan here too.
Yeah, it's a two-door sedan or two-door coupe.
It's got the dual gate Hurst shifter there.
Another interpretation of the deep set gauges. That was, again, definitely a fashion trend in those days, very rally and racing oriented. Full console, not as elegant in my opinion as the console in the Mercury. But no, actually it's a partial console. Is it full? I can't.
It's partial.
It's partial, yeah. Partial console.
Just enough for the dual gate.
Interesting hardware on the door armrests with a lot of kind of sleek ribbing on the bright accents that the armrest sits on, and the pretty rich looking upper door trim. The instrument panel is very rich looking anyway. Nice simple theme and a lot of depth and shape to it. The upper crash pad bolster becomes the housing for the gauges. And
it then, does,
yeah,
that's right.
Everything is set forward. It's very nicely done.
Great color on the car too.
Yeah, and this is definitely a beautiful, beautiful integration of the bumpers and the overall body contours. We talked about that a little bit when we discussed the Lincolns and the Continental Mark IV, but this one is a beautifully integrated bumper hardware car where it's very, very elegant.
Such a difference in 1 year to this from this saffron yellow, I believe, 442.
Yeah, this one you can see, even though it has this actually has, the tunnel back or the flying buttress pillar with the deeply inset glass. It has some practical value because the glass doesn't have to be as slanted, so the sun load isn't quite as extreme. provides a little somewhat cooler interior.
And the 68 Charger kind of took that to the extreme too.
Yes, that was one of the cliches that were worked with at the time. It was a fashion trend, and companies interpreted that to the best of their abilities in one way or another.
Elaborate door panel again on this one here. And
Very
this
much
is a Cutlass
so.
Supreme.
Yeah.
I think that's
and take note of the console. The plan view shape of the console is really interesting. It's biased towards the driver. It's kind of has a sort of a kick out towards the driver's side.
I love the huge rocket emblem there too.
It's pretty slick, and the hardware, the shift pattern, and of course the shifter, the floor shifter itself.
Yeah.
And then nicely done with this very flat, very pancake section console that almost floats over the tunnel. It's quite neat. I like that.
Hurst shifter as well on the 442, and this was this 442 W30. This was part of, you see the CS. This was a Cutlass Supreme this year.
Yes.
So it's a modification. If you look at
it is an interesting mix of model placements or positioning, isn't it?
It is, because I think on the sticker here it'll say, yep, it says Cutlass Supreme Holiday Coupe.
Yes.
And then the 442 package is an option on the window sticker.
And you wouldn't think that is a good mix, because the Cutlass Supreme was a luxury play and this was a performance play, but hey, why not?
Kind of a plain dash here.
Very simple, very mid-century modern, not very complicated, which is, in my book, is a good thing. I like the interesting thick, the glove box cover is actually the crash pad, which is kind of nice.
It is, over there on the far right.
Yeah, it has a massive gap to the instrument binnacle.
You have to make sure that your head crashes.
Yes, you want to make sure that you're
car.
aiming the right way when you're in that situation. But very strong tornado cues on the exterior here with the body side line.
And there's the CS again in the middle of the rear.
There's a Cutlass Supreme. I love the way they've made the reflection bumper, where the bumper looks like the waterline of a pond or a lake, and it reflects.
The blackout?
Well, no, it just sort of creates a waterline, a horizon line, and then it reflects in the tail lamps below the horizon line. It's sort of like a reflection play, which is nice. It's symmetrical. This was another motif that you see applied on a number of cars in the late 1960s. And I think the 1960 Ford actually kind of started that, because it had a dished out section in the lower bumper that you could order a reflector for.
I can see that, yeah.
And so the standard car came with a half round shaped tail lamp above, and then if you went, with the option to have it reflect, the reflector reflected in the bumper, so to speak. So that was kind of a neat design cue.
I think one cool execution of that is the 67 full-size Delta 88 when you got
Correct.
the custom.
You have you have one of those.
I don't have the custom though, which doesn't have the lower
No, you
light.
don't, but that's another good example. They would do that on a number of cars, especially at Oldsmobile, but as I said, I think the 60 Ford may have been the first car to play on that idea.
All right.
Thanks for watching this design walk-around of the 67 Olds 442 W30 and the 68 Hurst Olds. If you enjoyed it, please like, comment, and subscribe, as that helps the YouTube algorithm serve it up to more viewers like you. Feel free to hit the super thanks button as well, which is the heart-shaped icon with a $sign in it at the bottom right of your video browser. And until next time, click one of the videos at the bottom left and right for some suggestions for you. Thanks again for watching. Till next time, take care.